Before starting this panel, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Huseyin Hurmali, who is the Vice President of Journalists and Writers Foundation. And Mr. Hurmali.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Karbasov. Honorary participants, I would like to welcome you all to the panel, which was organized, co-sponsored by Journalists and Writers Foundation. For today, actually, I prepared two speeches. One of them is a formal one, and one of them is an informal one. And I choose the second one. And if anybody interested in what we do and our future projects, especially international peace projects and Istanbul Summit, you can get the copies of my formal speech, and there are some information in them. But my second informal speech is another real story I experienced in the field during our dialogue visits for building and maintaining the peace. Before I start working at Journalists and Writers Foundation, I used to live in California, and I was leading an organization named as West America Turkey Council. I worked there as a chairman, and it was an umbrella organization, covered the West Coast. There were 12 states and 32 Turkish American organizations under it. And we aimed to erase the negative perspectives about Turkey in order to eradicate the obstacles for sustainable peace and development. With this aim, we visited many bureaucrats, politicians, CSO leaders, academics, NGO leaders, etc. And at some point, we get an appointment from a congressman, Robert Filner, who was first elected to the United States House of Representatives in 1992, without having much information about him. And he was, later on, we learned that he was the enemy of Turkey. Anyway, on November 2010, we visited him, and myself, accompanied by the president of the Pacifica Institute, which is also a Turkish-American institution in California, which is quite prominent and famous institution, Turkish-American institution, very well known in California. And the leader of the institution is Ibrahim Barlas, was with me during our visit. And he himself is ethnically Kurdish. We have some kind of Kurdish issue in Turkey, if you know anything about Turkey. Anyway. And with Ibrahim Barlas and myself, visited Mr. Filner, and Mr. Filner welcomed us with an urgent question of Kurdish issue. And Ibrahim Barlas, as being Kurdish and as the president of the Turkish institution, give a different perspective to him. And we invited Mr. Filner to Turkey for a trip to Turkey. And he accepted. 2 weeks later than our visit, December 2010, he came to Turkey. It was, actually, the trip was full of surprises. It has its own fictional story. But because of the time limitation, I just want to share with you one scene during our visit. At some point, with his own request, we visited Diyarbakir. Diyarbakir is a city in the southeast part of Turkey and mostly Kurdishly populated city. We visited Diyarbakir and a study center at Diyarbakir. And those study centers, and some of which were opened by the Journalists and Writers Foundations, and those study centers were opened with the grants of by different people in order to supply tutoring services for students in need, especially in southeastern Turkey, especially for the Kurdish kids. At a point, Mr. Filner stopped listening to us because he gazed at a scene which is very cinematographic. And a group of students were taking their lessons from a teacher around a stove, and he looked without saying anything and uttered, "This is not fake." Later he confessed that, actually, it was our 5th day on the trip. Later he confessed that all the meetings that we happened to have during the visit, he thought that they were all set up, they were all fake. But when he was watching the kids getting the lesson with the loving eyes, he said, "This is not fake. I now understand what you're doing is building peace through education by promoting alternatives to the youth of this region." This memoir is also a mirror for me. looking the other's eyes and seeing yourself as you would like to see in the mirror. Then I thought this transfer of experience and feelings will build and maintain peace in practice. And today, as the Vice President of Journalists and Writers Foundation, I welcome you all again. And I want to end my words with a quote from our Honorary President, Mr. Fethullah Gülen. Okay, quote unquote. Different beliefs, races, customs, and traditions will continue to cohabit in this village. Each individual is like a unique realm unto themselves. Therefore, the desire for all humanity to be similar to one another is nothing more than wishing for the impossible. For this reason, the peace of this global village lies in respecting these differences, considering these differences to be part of our nature, and ensuring that people appreciate these differences. Otherwise, it's unavoidable that the world will devour itself in a web of conflicts, disputes, fights, and the bloodiest of wars, thus preparing the way for its own end. End of quote. By the way, when we turn back to California, Mr. Filner gave us a list of not-to-do lists in 8 points when having a trip with the congressman. And thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Hurmali, for these opening remarks, and hopefully Journalists and Writers Foundation and its affiliated organizations, NGOs, will do much more and contribute to the peace and development around the world.